live, just FYI.
They got chickens and everything.
Yeah.
We were waiting for you, Jesse.
Not late yet, am I? No.
No.
Okay. Wait. A little earlier than that.
Yeah, I heard it quite a bit earlier than
I
that.
know. Oh, we did the turkey. And I want the house to be first. Oh, yeah.
Now that Berlin's president, she has to be more careful about being on time.
She's still bringing us wine though.
That's okay. You don't
I
have
didn't
much
much
taste.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. We are live. Lights are hot. So, although we're a fun crowd.
Yeah, we're. Please, maybe.
Line us to be on the council meeting. There's no question about that. No one can dispute that.
What I do. Yes.
Should probably turn up my hearing.
All right, everybody, please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everyone. We've done a little work on the speakers and microphones, and so hopefully they're seem to be working better. So hopefully that's the case for everyone. Tonight we have a workshop, so no official decisions get made or any official votes or anything like that. Just a chance for the city council to talk about things and discuss.
and not take up a lot of time during a regular city council meeting. We do have a public comment section. The same rules apply to that as any other public comment section, but we will allow some participation during discussions on things on agenda items. So if you guys in the audience have a question or a comment or an idea or something that would be helpful to the discussion, certainly raise your hand, and when I acknowledge you, then I'll give you the floor. So not quite as structured as a regular city council meeting. So anybody wish to comment at this time? Okay. Well, then we'll move on to a payroll presentation. We have Josh DeLuna from BBSI here to give us some information on payroll processing.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm trying to get this camera to, it's freaking out a little bit, but let me, hold on one second. Yeah.
Disco ball.
Yeah, why is the disco ball?
Anyway.
Right, it's really.
I don't think it's split.
Oh, wrong way.
Forget it. Hold on one second. Gosh. I don't know. Kyle, you may have to go up there and point it.
You have to do it from the alleyway.
Yeah, but go ahead, Josh. Why don't you introduce yourself and I'll figure it out.
So my name is Josh DeLuna. I'm with BBSI. Brandon is also with BBSI. He's an HR consultant.
Get a little bit closer to the mic.
Oh, sorry. And I'm the business development manager for the area. If, do you want to just go right into the proposal, or do you want to talk a little bit about BBSI? Can I talk a little about BBSI first? Is it?
Well, or talk a little bit about what Mike has reached out to you about, and
Sure.
give us a little background into that, and then go right into whatever spiel you've got.
Perfect. Yeah. So Mike and I started talking a few weeks now about the payroll situation for the city. The employees that are under his purview and the ones at the golf course. And just from a perspective of how much time it takes them to do the payroll now, the compliance ramifications of that, or liabilities of someone doing payroll that's maybe not, that is versed in payroll, well, maybe not versed, but the ones that payroll's like a living organism, right? So it ebbs and flows, and there's limitations to certain people with their knowledge in it or with their time that they have to do it. So what BBSI does is comes in, we're the payroll processor. We're a professional employment organization. And so with the payroll piece, we also offer HR consulting, risk and safety consulting. We have business strategy. There's a lot of different core services that we have. And I actually have some of these little brochures that I can leave you with too, if you want. Got a stack of them, but we'll go over kind of like the core services that we've been talking about. And there's two things that are in the proposal. One is our PEO, the professional employment organization piece. And the other one's called ASA, where it's just administrative service. So just payroll processing as slim as you can get it. We feel obviously that when we process payroll, offering these other core services is nothing more than just a benefit. There's no extra charges for them. It just comes along with the package. But this is our product lineup for the core services. As far as conversations we've had, it's just been over what you have for payroll right now, how we process payroll, our technology piece that we have behind it, and then the other pieces of it, like the HR consulting and the risk and safety consulting. So, and then if you go ahead.
Yeah, no, and if I may, Mayor, and I think we've got the camera situation figured out, so thanks for the patience. So I wanted to tee it up a little bit for Josh and his team to kind of give you a reason why I'm even considering this and bringing it to the council. Currently, the city manager's in charge of putting together payroll, manually entering it, physically printing out checks. So our staff literally has to wait for checks to be printed out on a printer. You know, oftentimes council members, we have to find them to actually sign the checks. You know, I think a few different perspectives. So you'll notice I did provide this memorandum. So the staff and I, we did some math on, you know, we basically did a data analysis of what are our internal costs of producing payroll ourselves versus, you know, working with a firm like BBSI. So you know, if you look at this memorandum and some of the preliminary numbers, and I won't get too detailed, but, you know, we guesstimate that per year, just by my rate of pay, Meta's rate of pay, the managers collectively, we're probably spending $5,000-6,000. That's with benefits and salary collectively to produce payroll every single year. Now, when you look at a professional firm like BBSI or even ADP that we also reached out to for a cost analysis, it costs less to actually have a payroll that is direct deposited, so that, you know, that helps our employees with lifestyle. They're not waiting around. We don't, you know, we don't cramp a counselor style, because I've already been here where a city council member has to go on the road who has signing authority, and it, you know, it just, it makes things complicated in addition to costing staff time. And then we also reached out to our auditor, Rebecca Price, and, you know, her recommendation was to go with a professional company. You know, Dave did an excellent job with payroll. You know, he was a hands-on guy. But, you know, I think from an accuracy standpoint, because we're dealing with things like PERS, Social Security, state income tax, you know, all these different things, you know, and over the years, there has been some times we've had to go back and you know, make sure things are correct. And again, that's no slam on anybody. But, you know, from my standpoint, from a cost effectiveness, from the fact that BBSI has a Hermiston office, they've also worked with the city of Pasco when I was there. You know, Josh has a lot of experience with municipalities. So it just makes sense financially to do it, accuracy wise to do it. And then I think when I did a survey of the employees, now we only have 4 full-times and, you know, several part-times, but, you know, the consensus was, God, this would be nice if we can have a check that's put in there, and then, you know, we know that it's accurate. So Josh, can you talk about that a little bit in terms of, like, you guys guarantee the accuracy and take on that liability as well?
Yeah, so on the PEO model, that's kind of the big draw is, you know, that you're going to be from a standpoint of accuracy and any compliance issues, things like that, everything is on us. You know, if we make a mistake, then we're the ones that have to eat it and pay for it, because we're the ones processing it. Now, you still enter in your hours,
Right?
you know, the payroll is still yours. You know, you still own everything on that aspect of it. But if there was ever like I mean, technology is technology. You know, if there was ever a glitch in something or something didn't get updated the right way, then, you know, obviously we would catch it, audit it ourselves, and then go back and fix it and take care of it. So just from that standpoint alone, you know, your people are being paid on time, the right amount, all the deductions are going to be correct. And they're going to have more feature and functionality. So in our My BBSI portal, and I'll probably let Brandon talk a little bit more about this, the technology piece of that, it really lets the employee have some self-serve options that they don't have now. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so we have the administrative portal that your users could use, like Mike, for example, to enter payroll, but employees also have access. So they can go in, they can view their pay stubs, they can update their tax withholdings for their federal and state. If they're trying to get a car loan on the weekend and they need their pay stubs, they can pull that up. So it has a lot of convenience as well. So it's nice for the employees, but that also is a time savings as well for management, because employees can do actions themselves, that it takes away some of that time savings as well. And also then the accuracy of the data entry then, you know, falls to the employee as well, as far as the accountability of keeping everything. We also put in the system any paid time off plans that you may have as well, and that's fully visible to staff as well, so they can see what kind of hours they have available for their planning. We print all of those on the pay stubs so that you're compliant with those regulations as well. We can handle all of the retirement plan deductions, all of the taxes as well. So with the payroll, we process the payroll, but we also do file the quarterly taxes as well on your behalf. So that's something else that we pay off for you.
And you do the W-2s and.
We do the W-2s, yep. And we have options where they can sign up for, employees can sign up for electronic W-2s if they want. And if not, then we'll mail them out once here.
What kind of, and I may be jumping the gun with this question, but what kind of oversight would the council have into the payroll process? Because now we see when we go to sign a check, when we get the financials passed around, we can see who's getting what, what's being taken out, you know, basically their paycheck stuff.
Yeah.
And their hours worked, all that kind of stuff. So what oversight is there for us to make sure that Mike's not overpaying his people or
Sure.
putting money aside somewhere that he shouldn't be or whatever? Not that he would do that, but you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so we have the way to set up administrative profiles with customized access. So you can give 1 or 2 people, if you have a backup ability to process payroll. You can have other individuals that have access to go in and view things. So if you want to go in and view the payroll, you could set it up as well that Mike goes in and enters everything. And then if somebody else needs to approve it or the signing authority, we can give access to someone on the council or different people with signing authority that they can go in, they can view the payroll. They can view kind of a mock report of all of the checks, what it would look like ahead of time, and the summaries, and then that person could hit finalize. And it's very transparent. We can go into the audit log and we can see who performed what actions associated with the user profile. So we could go in and see what, say Mike entered, we could go in and see what user profile went in and finalize the payroll. And again, custom access can be set up as well. If you have somebody in accounting that you don't want to see the personal information, like, you know, ages, dates of birth, things like that for employees, but they do need financial reports. They need the payroll reports as well. We can set up profiles where someone can go in, they can't see the sensitive employee information, but they can go in and pull up the payroll reports that they need.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the nice part is, you know, we can set up the mayor or the, you know, deputy mayor to be the ultimate signing authority. And then, you know, the other jurisdictions I've worked at, we've brought the payroll vouchers to the meeting and then those get signed off on. So, you know, payroll is one of those, it's not like accounts payable where there's just sort of random bills that hit. We know we have to pay our employees as a liability, which I know we all know. But it's one of those things, you know, I think the accountability piece comes with the next signer. And the thing that's nice about that, I mean, you guys can be on vacation or something, or, you know, you're out in Pendleton and you can take a look at that on your phone or your laptop, and, you know, it's a little bit easier. And, you know, I think there's more accountability when you have the opportunity to look at it on your laptop rather than coming over to City Hall and you're kind of, well, that looks good. And, you know, you sign it and you hope for the best. And, you know, and again, I think for me, it would make me feel better, you know, as an administrator that, you know, I know it's right. I know there's accountability. It's digital and the employees are getting their paycheck right then. And there's no lag time. And,
that was gonna be my next question, is how long does, once you get the information, how long does it take to process the pay and get it into the bank? Assuming that the second signer or whoever authorizes it is right on top.
Sure. So typically we ask for it midday, 2 days before the payday. So if payday's Friday, we usually want it Wednesday by noon. Now we do have some flexibility, but ultimately banks have their own ACA cutoff times. So usually we have to submit things at least the day before from an ACA standpoint. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, worst case scenario, if something happens, we can cut 5 checks as well, and we can do that in between. So if there is something that was not turned in time or missed, we also can do outside of the regular payroll cycle checks. Yeah.
is one thing that I think would be very beneficial for Mike is for budgeting purposes and those sort of things that you can see in full reports. So this allows him to pull administrative reports also. Does he can, I mean, is there administrative portal where he can go and pull reports? We say, can you give us what our salaries and benefits costs have been this last quarter or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yep, there's reporting on all of the payroll data, which it has filters that you can filter out. So you can filter out or sort by different departments and things. So if you had you know, the year-round staff versus the seasonal staff, you could sort based on that. And then take a look at the taxes, the employee versus employer portions, the benefit costs, the salary, all of that in. And there's also employee reports in there as well, because it's going to house the employee data also. So if you wanted to take a look at things like turnover and things like that, you know, employee-based reports for that.
I was just gonna bring up too, this is also a point in time where you can look at, we talk about semi-monthly versus bi-weekly, and that pay cycle. It's a time where if you're gonna make a change, you can make a change to all of this if you wanted to. So payday could be every other Friday, like clockwork. You know it's gonna be every other Friday. You don't have to worry about, oh, it's on a Saturday, so we gotta pay on a Friday or a Monday. So there's just all that stuff we can change and fix for you at the same time. And then Brandon was just gonna get onto it, but the MyBBSI platform is a true HRIS portal. So anything you want to have in there from a productivity standpoint, performance evaluations, things like that, you can utilize that portal to house all those documents, and there's no charge for that either. It's just there for you to have. So. Any questions about that at all?
No, and Mayor, we talked about it a little bit, kind of getting in that cycle to where we're paying people for actually what they've worked more than, you know,
What
kind
we
of
think they're gonna-
right, what you think, because I think sometimes that happens in our cycle. We do semi-monthly. And so it's more accurate, it's more true data. You know, when you do the cost analysis between the labor, between myself, Ameta, Tanya, and everybody else, we actually, you know, apples to apples, we spend more labor time, you know, producing payroll than we do working, you know, and I think our time could be better spent. And then in the long run, you know, we'll actually save money when you're looking at true labor versus what I could be doing, you know, printing out, you know, different things. And, you know, then we're also printing out separate. We have some 1099s, which we could probably pull over into the regular payroll, you know, not as 1099s, but regular employees. So, you know, there's some things that can make our life a lot easier, because that's a whole nother check that I have to cut for the 1099s who are doing essentially the same work, you know, so
Your contract.
your contract.
And you guys can process that as part of this as well or not?
If they're a W-2 employee, not a 1099.
Not a 1099, okay.
Yeah, so we'd have to make that decision whether they were, you know, going to be W-2 or
Right.
1099, depending on the situation.
And you'd still have to process it.
Yeah, I would.
But we don't have very many of those that.
No, we only have 2 right now, and one in golf and then a janitorial services, so.
Yeah, so then it looks like, Mike, according to the report, that you're the one who spends most of the time as far as our
Absolutely.
employees doing payroll.
Absolutely. So, you know, I probably, you know, and obviously I'm not going to be as fast as Dave right now. So, you know, for me, it'll be a bit of a struggle if we continue on the same path until, you know, you get super efficient at it. But nonetheless, I mean, we still spent quite a bit of time when Dave was here.
Well, and one of the points that we, this council, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys and gals, but we were always trying to figure out ways to free Dave's time up. Because we knew how busy he was all the time. I mean, it just never stops.
Yeah, it's a busy job for sure.
And so, I mean, it may not seem like a lot, 6 or 7 hours, but that's a whole day that you could spend answering emails or answering phone calls or who knows what, right? So, and I think Dave probably would have appreciated that had he had that extra 7 million.
One I think too, is just, you know, being small staff, you have to do all the things, and so if you could offload things that their time is more valuable doing stuff for the city versus printing checks.
Right.
I mean, that's important, but like if that's an easy thing to offload versus like there's stuff they have to do with customer service and administrative stuff and like office stuff, you know, like.
And it is gonna cost us more money. I mean, it's not really a savings. We're not saving anything. It's costing us $292 a month.
Yes, yeah.
But if we
But
can
the
be more
time-
efficient and
Yeah.
better at our other work, then that's where we're gonna see it.
Right, yeah, and you know, that's a good way to frame it, yeah. Cause you know, in government, it's oftentimes, it's hard to compare that apples to apples, like true savings. You know, cause you know, most of us, I think all of us are salary that are full-time, so you know, we work. You know, however long it takes to get the job done, but you know, ultimately, if you break out our hourly wage, which you know, oftentimes we go over anyway, so but yeah, from an efficiency standpoint, you're spot on, Mayor. It just, you know, it'd be nice to free up my time, you know, working on economic development or, you know, and there's times like tomorrow where Ametta's off and Anna's on vacation, so I'm covering the library.
They're
You know,
bailing
stop
on
taking
ya.
utility bills and, you know, I'm being the city manager, so, but it's, you know, it's fun. I meet a lot of people and so, yeah, the other day I checked in a book, you know, paid a bill and answered some calls. So, you know, we wear a lot of hats. So anything we could offload it's always a good thing.
I really think that it's important to note that Oregon is constantly changing the taxes and what's coming out. Just when, for example, when they put in the pay time off tax a few years ago, and we all had to adjust our pay mechanisms to adjust for that and pay Oregon. It's nice to have people that, no offense, but know how to do that and do it quickly and efficiently rather than having to restructure the system for the calculation. And from Rebecca Price's standpoint, I'm sure that makes it a lot easier and again, more compliant to know that we are staying true to all those requirements and with the PERS, et cetera.
In a timely manner too, yeah.
If I may.
Yes,
Along those lines as well, the PEO model does include HR consulting as well, which is what I do. So with that, there can be some administrative or really just time savings, some efficiencies with that. So when there are all of the rule changes, labor employment law changes in Oregon, which happen frequently, what we do for our clients is we research those so that our clients don't have to spend time going and trying to read and to try to interpret and to make sure that they're coming up with solutions that are compliance. So if there is a change, then we can we can help change the handbook or a policy associated with that. If there are notices associated with a new leave or something, we can provide those notices for you. Even though BOLI will provide templates for things, they'll still need customization and you want to make sure that's in a compliance base. So we can provide a lot of that saving the research time as well. And then if there are things that need to change as far as how paid time off and things are built in the system, we can assist with that as well. There's also time savings on the, some efficiencies on the employee relations part as well. Another thing that I regularly consult on is employee relations issues. So if you are having an issue with an employee, that's something that I consult on. What kind of strategies might be effective in trying to change the behavior or correct it? But equally as important, how do you document it to best protect yourself as the employer in case someone does file a claim? So that's something that we help with HR consulting as well.
And Mayor, if I may, in your packet, council, I also reached out to ADP, so there was some comparison. You know, ADP does similar things to BBSI. I wanted you guys to be able to compare apples to apples. You know, they're double the cost of BBSI. The thing I like about BBSI, they have their Hermiston office, they're accessible. When I was at the city of Pasco, we worked with BBSI on our seasonals. So they're, like I said, they're well-versed in municipalities. And, you know, their price point is very affordable for the services they offer. they've offered us a couple of tiers, you know, just payroll, then, you know, the additional stuff that Brandon is talking about. So, you know, nonetheless, both are very affordable for what you get. And, you know, ultimately, I think it makes us a better city, a more compliant city, and, you know, more efficient overall. So, and for me, you know, I'm a bit of a nervous Nelly, I admit, you know, and I, especially when it comes to payroll, because I want them to get paid what they deserve, and, you know, make sure their PERS are in line, and you know, for me, it helps me sleep at night. And then, you know, I also have folks that I can reach out to if there's questions that I have. So that's kind of, you know, that's why I wanted to bring it to council, to get your, you know, to get your take on it before I went out and did anything on my own. You know, that's my rule of thumb. I'm never going to do anything without your guys' knowledge or blessing, but I at least wanted to run this by you to see what you thought. Is it, you know, a smart move? Is it something that we want to do? And, you know, ultimately will make us a better city.
Well, we definitely want to take care of our employees. I know we have had payroll times when Dave's freaking out. I gotta get a check and sign because so it's, you know. And it's like, oh, you're killing me. But I think that would definitely, but Dave's payroll was something I didn't necessarily agree on how he did it, but this is much better. But yeah, we do want to take care of the employees, and I think it'd be definitely a benefit to them. And I think it would be a benefit to you as well, because I know city manager is just busy all the time. There's no downtime at all.
No, that's what I'm learning.
It doesn't look like there's gonna be for a while.
No, and it's been great. You know, people, you know, city manager is one of those jobs where, you know, you're plugging away, and you know, a citizen comes in and has a few questions, and sometimes it turns into 30 minutes, and you go, all right, let me shift gears. And, you know, that can happen during the payroll session too. So, you know, you set to lock the door, but nonetheless, I mean, ultimately, I mean, it's really about efficiency, time management, you know, making sure, you know, that our employees are taken care of. And, you know, even for Dave, you know, he used to schedule his vacations around, you know, payroll. So he made sure he was back, which, you know, it's just, it's a lifestyle issue. You know, in 2026, we should be able to, you know, provide the direct deposit, no matter how small or large of a city we are.
So Mike, are you proposing the $146 per pay period? I'm assuming that's bi-monthly pay periods.
Yeah, that's the baseline, you know,
Start
obviously.
with that and see how that goes.
Yeah, you know, at minimum, I'd love to start with that, and then, you know, see how it goes. And then, you know, I really like the additional things. And we talked about it a little bit with their team as we get into the budget season, you know, maybe bake that into the 26, 27 budget. But definitely wanted to get your blessing, you know, if you felt like at minimum, the baseline level was where we start, you know, to get our feet wet. And, you know, before you know it, the 26, 27 budget will be here in July. And I think that's where I would like to go as, you know, as I'm learning the system. And then, because I like the additional HR components, you know, that we get with that are.
But you're not proposing that right now.
No, I think what I would like to do
So I
with your
understand.
blessing, you know, is start with the baseline and then work it into the 26, 27 budget. And then, you know, as we're learning each other, and, you know, that way I'll have a better handle on what those components are as we head into budget season. But
And
I
know
think it's
Dave's had some
important.
HR tools that he used to reach out to as well, because he had some pretty sticky situations that he had to navigate. And so we might figure that out. later.
Yeah, and I think
See if that still fits.
absolutely. So I think it makes more sense to start small and then move our way up to the larger model and work that into the 26, 27 budget. So
Mike, in the 25-26 budget, since my understanding, what I'm hearing is we start this sooner than later, right? We start this, where do you plan on paying for this out of the current budget?
you know, I'm looking at the contingency, which I'd have to come to the council anyway for a budget amendment with a contingency. So something like this, I'd want to be transparent to the public, like it's a new thing. The contingencies I have to bring to council anyway. And, you know, there's a bucket of money in there, like there's 20, 30 grand, if I remember correctly. So, you know, it's not a tremendous amount, you know, for the, you know, the first few months. We probably do have some general fund money, but because it's a new expenditure, we probably should go contingency and just, you know, make a little line item for the rest of the year and then kind of figure it out in 26, 27. Yeah, so I may pay for it myself, though. It's pretty affordable for the 3 months.
Okay, well, any further questions from the BVSI guys or Mike?
Thanks, guys.
Ready?
Thank you, guys.
All right, well, thank you
Yeah,
guys.
thank you, guys. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for coming tonight.
Thank you. And I have these brochures in my.
Sure. Yeah, certainly leave a few of them and it'll give us something to look at. See everything you do.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda then is discussion about the RV park and mobile home park. Mike, I'll let
Yes,
you-
yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. So, council, this was in your packet as well. So what you have is you have a few different things. The first is essentially a PowerPoint with some key points about our RV park and also our mobile home park. As you get deeper into this and we can talk about it, I figure what we do is just kind of go through the first part, which is kind of a high level overview of, you know, some of the issues going on out there. Then also a cost to the city for the mobile home park and the RV park financials, the staff and I, Kyle and Ameta, you know, we put together some math on, you know, what's cash flowing for the RV park, what's, you know, is the mobile home park cash flowing? And, you know, it was surprising. We're having our Monday staff meetings now, and it just was one of those conversations that kind of started organically. And it was like, well, you know, are we making money at the RV park? Or, you know, are we making money at the mobile home park? Because I think sometimes you just sort of take it for granted things are working. And so that's kind of how this came to fruition. It wasn't just sort of like, yeah, let's just talk about this. You know, as we're searching for every single dollar, especially as we head into the end of the fiscal year and into next year, we're going to be scraping up many cost savings that we can. So this was what we call our Echo Housing Assets Financial Analysis with our RV park and mobile home park. So we were just looking for, you know, what's the operational performance. We found heavy reliance on general fund, vendor concentration risks, RV park operating at a loss. We do have pretty good margins in the mobile home park. You know, we make about 8,000 a year. The RV park, here's some of the technicalities of it: 6 full-time spaces, overnight, and we also have a tent camping. So we have 1 overnight space, full utility hookups provided by the city. This was a surprising part for me. The city pays the water, sewer, garbage, and electricity. I think at times we pay Ameta up to $1,500 in just electricity cost.
In the winter, it's hit 2,000 at least twice. So
Yeah,
that's-
so,
Usually it sits around 18.
and I think, you know, one of the complex things about that is correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, there's only 1 electrical meter out there. So, you know, as you can imagine.
There's 2 meters.
Okay,
So they're
there's
split
2.
up in half to where I can't remember if it's 1 through 4, 1 through 5 is off of 1
Okay.
meter, and then the rest of them and the bathroom is on the other meter.
And the scenario that creates, council, is, you know, you could have 1 RV pulling a lot of electricity and, you know, maybe somebody else doesn't, but, you know, without it, each spot being metered, it just creates that. You know, public works, like Kyle goes out there quite a bit. So, you know, you talk about like trackability of, you know, labor costs and, you know, capital cost of that sort.
Can I
So,
interrupt you for just a second?
sure.
Kyle, what do you do out there at the RV park?
Kyle, talking to the mic if you can, thanks.
On a normal time, there's not really a whole lot, but there is still maintenance of like the water spigots, dealing with the sewer lines if they have an issue, like if the top of for the hookup breaks or anything, we've got to go in and repair it. So day to day, there's not really a whole lot, but there's once to twice a year, we end up having to do a pretty good upkeep on the bathroom. Last year, I think we spent,
Maybe 2 weeks.
it was about 2 weeks of labor, and I think it was close to $1,000 doing upgrades in just the bathroom itself.
Do you mow behind the trailers?
Behind the trailers, that's a weekly deal that it gets mowed, because in theory, the RV park is just from the skate park to Water Street. And then there's that little bit of, it's a overnight pull through spots. They're just power and water hookups. But
Yeah, they don't
that
have
grass
grass.
behind the
So the person who is running the RV park host, couldn't he do some of that stuff?
I full-heartedly agree with that. I think he could very easily.
I mean, I see water spigots as a fixable item for just general home maintenance, right? Anything that would be general home maintenance, that person should be able to do. Mowing that grass behind there.
Yep.
Trimming those trees up to a certain extent. Cleaning leaves, cleaning the bathroom, all of that should be, they're getting free rent. Wouldn't take that many hours. It's pretty good pay for a few amount of hours. And then take it off your,
Yeah.
that'd be one cost savings, I guess.
I totally agree. So.
Yeah, cause shoot, just last week I had spent just over 2 hours to go get a frost-free hydrant, dig up the hole and replace a hydrant that really isn't that hard to replace.
Yeah, anybody with just basic mechanical stuff can use, or YouTube. I mean, not to go a little newer stuff, and I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds totally bad, but I mean, really, if I can do a frost free, I think anybody can, because I'm not very smart when it comes to plumbing, so. But thank you for that, Kyle. That puts a good perspective on happening, because it sounds like the guy that's getting free rent's not doing any of that. Right? Is that true?
You know, I'm gonna be diplomatic. I'm learning him and his style, you know, I'm learning his skill sets, and you know, my first take is there's not a lot of, there's not a tremendous amount to do out there. Other, you know, you got to keep the bathrooms clean, obviously, keep the area free of debris. And I just learned we had some violations last year that it made me aware of, you know, so the state actually comes in and they grade your facility. And so we had some deficiencies. So, you know, I've talked to him about some of that, keeping the bathroom clean, making sure there's no debris around. You know, that's, you know, it's a pretty easy job. You know, he is older, he's 83, you know, so there's, you know, he's not running marathons, but you know, he's definitely mobile and, you know, has that ability. So, you know, there is a balance there that I'm aware of. I don't want him mowing lawns and keel over, you know, so it's a balancing act, but nonetheless, he is getting free rent. And, you know, so I did lay the expectation that, you know, I want the bathrooms clean, because that was a complaint I had recently got from a tenant. There were spiders in there. The bathroom wasn't being cleaned. The toilet had these gross streaks in it, and there was, you know, kind of grimy look. And so I did an inspection, and it looked a lot better, but I did see a spider. So I, you know, and he asked me, like, what is your expectation? I said, first of all, keep the bathroom clean would be my number one, you know, and make sure everything around here is quite tidy. And he seemed like he understood that. So, you know, I'm learning John's style, and, you know, and I think I've heard some complaints about his style, you know, and we've had that talk about customer service and those kind of things. So I think he understands, but, you know, like from a financial perspective, I think, you know, when we look at the revenue, our gross revenue is about 28,000. Our expenses are a little bit more than 29, almost 30. You know, I mean, conservatively, it's a net loss of about $1,500, depending if you take in account public works, labor, and, you know, some of the capital costs. You know, I would say at best counsel, we break even. You know, let's say on a great year, we break even. You know, so I think the other issues that I see there too, you know, you can get into situations, as I research this and talk to some folks in cities, giving away free utilities, it can be looked at as gifting of public funds. You know, the rate out there is about $400 in the RV park. So you say, okay, where's the balance of, you're charging $400, does that really cover the utilities? So, you know, a reasonable person would probably say, yeah, probably not, on top of the water, sewer, garbage. So we're essentially subsidizing, that park, which should be cash flowing.
Mike, when was the last time we raised the rates?
I know, I talked to Dave not too long ago about that. I think he did last year. And that's another sticky wicket too, because the way we've got it set up out there, it's a month-to-month lease system, but the state of Oregon, if it goes on for numbers of months, it doesn't matter if it's month to month, it's deemed as a permanent living space. So in order to raise the rates, you have to do it 90 days in advance. And I believe it can only be upwards to like 9-10% at the most per year. And I know we have some folks that do rental properties. You probably know better than I would, some of those. I mean, but those regulations are really strict, Gina, aren't they? So, yeah. So, I mean, as I researched this, I was like, wow, we've kind of set ourselves up in a box to where, it's permanent living space. It's. No, go ahead, go ahead.
And then also.
That is something we can do. Yes.
We're gonna start charging for utilities.
I think,
Have to give them some-
yeah,
Yes, but
yeah.
But you'd have for electricity along those lines, you'd have to have PPNL come out, put a meter in.
Yeah. You'd have to have, yeah,
Are they
we'd have
gonna
to do
charge,
that.
they're gonna charge us for that. Those are we.
Yeah.
Right, that's something,
Yeah.
sometimes the PUDs do, but PPNL, I don't
There
know.
might be other grants out there.
Yeah,
that,
I mean,
you know,
that's-
for the folks that would help with an RV park type thing. There's there's grants for just about everything, but you just gotta find them is the hard
To
part.
start, could you do like a base, like this is what you pay for electricity to park here, or does it have to have a meter right away?
Well, you'd have people in an RV, I can see the argument where I'm not gonna use electricity, I'm gonna use my gas. I use a gas stove, I use a gas oven, I use a gas water heater.
Right.
So, or I could run off my batteries or my generator, and I'm not supposed to be running generators. I mean,
Not if it's broken down.
yeah, and you've got people out there that are using gas, and I'm sure they're using a lot less electricity than the folks that aren't. Like my daughter lives there. I gotta be 100% clear on that. And she's got a big gas tank. I'm like, why aren't you turning your fridge on to electricity? It's basically free. Why are you paying for gas to run your fridge? And they're just pumping you all the electricity you can use. So I'm sure there's people in there that are doing that. Like I'd use everything on electricity I could, heaters and basic.
Yeah, that's what's, that is what is happening. So, and I don't blame people
But
if
there's
we
a
give them the
meter on it,
opportunity.
certainly switch.
Yeah.
We think it might
Yeah.
use.
I think we probably could set like a base rate, because, yeah. We could do like a cost analysis of what, its cost over the year and divide that up equally. Is that fair? You can make the argument, it just depends, because you're always gonna have different users. But if that's part of, the lease, I think that would be appropriate to share, because right now, we're probably spending upwards of almost 20 grand a year just in utility costs that the city for electricity. Am I overstating that, Amanda? So, and to me, coming in, knowing how thin our margins are, like across the board, for us to give away 20 grand in electricity, that's a lot. That's,
Mike, how often do we renew the leases?
I'm trying to get a handle on that, counselor. So, they are month to month, and, I have a real estate license, so, I'm dangerous enough to know, not a little bit here. So a lot of times it just becomes, if we're not re-signing it, it just kind of resets and it keeps going. And, especially, in the more, I would say, progressive states that are tenant friendly, what's happening is that Washington and Oregon have created these scenarios where it's deemed like a permanent living space. It's not like, hey, it's an RV park, you're out of here. you know, RV parks have become in vogue now because of the cost of housing. So yeah, they have the same protections as, you know, an apartment building, or if you moved into a house. So we've kind of inadvertently created the scenario, and again, I'm not being critical of anybody. It's just, you know, it's just, we just happened to start turning over the rocks, and, you know, it was not something we were looking for, but as we looked at, you know, just the cost of it and, you know, some of the scenarios that are happening. But I think we need to tighten up the leases. We need to get, you know, the utilities, you know, getting the folks to pay, because we just can't afford to subsidize that.
So have you looked at what other, I mean, other RV parks out there? I mean.
We have, I can't say,
permanent residents, basically.
we haven't done an extensive, but, you know, Kyle and I, the pilot, they're charging $600 a month, I think, and but, you know, you got to think they've got amenities of, you know, they've got all the hookups, the showers, you know, you've got the
tree.
so, you know, it's a little bit unfair comparison. So, you know, I don't think, you know, 400 for, we don't have a ton of amenities, but, you know, I'll say like our RV park, like if I was a retiree, heck, I'm right on Main Street. I've got a winery, a couple bistros. I got a nice park. I got great walking downtown. I can go, you know, to another winery. I mean, it's about the best hidden secret for an RV park.
So the pilot doesn't charge, they don't have individual meters on their long-term residents, do they?
They have powered meters.
Oh, they do?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're well hooked up.
Yeah.
You know, that's the main one we looked at. I think we looked at one other one. I can't remember I didn't put it in part of this report because not to say I didn't have time. We just didn't do it.
I think the
Yeah.
red, Stanfield, I want to say it's 500, 550.
Yeah,
And I think they have their own meters, and you pay water and heat.
yeah, and that seems to be the going rate between anywhere from 400 to 600, you know, for some of the more advanced ones. Like the Pilot's that's a nice RV park, you know, a lot of those have like stipulations for the type of RV, you know, they can't be 10 years or older, or, you know, there's some sort of HOAs, if you will, if you want to call them, for those. And also, like, most of the RVs at our spot are pretty nice, and they're not old or anything. It just, I think, the way we're running it, so, you know.
Well, we could certainly, right now, since I don't think the rates have raised, been at least a year, not a year and a half. I remember, I'm not sure Dave had it come through the council at one point in time. But we could certainly raise the rates, give everybody notice like we're supposed to, and
Right.
say, we're gonna have to raise the rates. And then get in touch with PPNL and see what it would cost to put a meter in at each of the long-term spots. The other ones that are just
Right.
the nightly hookups, they don't need that. But the ones that are gonna be, that we're gonna lease.
Right.
Could have that, and you could see what that would cost and how long that would take to recuperate. It probably wouldn't take too long, but
How long what was the percentage you said was fair?
Between $400 and $600, you know, depending on the amenities. Oh, right around 9-10% at the most, you know, per year. Yeah, so it's not super significant really, but, you know, yeah, you know, in 3 to 5 years, you'll get at market rate.
I think for the council's sake, for my sake, what I would like to understand is what are the rules? What can we do? So maybe a little bit of research when you're talking.
Yes, and
No.
no, and Counselor, that was kind of that we were going to do like a phase 2 of this study, because, you know, I didn't want to overwhelm the council with too much other than, hey, here's how we're running it currently, and, you know, get your thoughts. Because I know, I mean, for me, the next phase is, you know, doing that comparison analysis for the, you know, what are other parks charging? What amenities do they have? You know, what are the costs? You know, what does it cost for PPNL to put those in? You know, I know we have a little bit of funding in our economic development fund, you know, and it would be I really think it'd be a good investment. When I was at Franklin County, I'll tell you, we ran a really well-run RV park, and it was an absolute, you know, it was our cash flow. And not that we were like in the business of RV parks, but it just, you know, it's so popular now, and we had long-term residents, and yeah, and, you know,
got stuff. we've got, which isn't really nice, but it's full.
Yeah.
You got the one out here, it's always full.
Uh,
Patterson.
It's all for the city one.
Cascade box. Okay, we're gonna put those. Yeah, we're gonna, I think what we're gonna, I think at least we should get like at least 5 and, at least one that's like our similar size. So we'll do our due diligence because, you can't, I mean, it's like comparing a house to, you got a 3-bedroom house to a 10-bedroom mansion, it doesn't equate. So we'll definitely do our homework. I just wanted to get your council's take on what your thoughts were. So that's the RV park. So, obviously we've got some things we need to take care of and what I'll do also, counselors, I'll get specific on, okay, what are the actual rules and, what's it take if, someone had to be moved out and things like that. So mobile home is separate from RV. So mobile home is our property. What's it on? What's the actual street it's on, Kyle? It's a bridge and then
It
there's
goes Bridge to Buckley along Dale's front.
So those rents, they vary from $300 to $250 for the fifth wheel that's on there. So, those rents are super affordable. Market rate, we've looked at that a little bit without doing like a true analysis. Those can go anywhere from 400 to 700, and I think we've talked about some that can be as high as like $800, depending if, it's a really nice mobile home park. So it just kind of varies. Like I'll say, anecdotally speaking, we haven't done a ton of it. Ours isn't the creme de la creme of, mobile home parks. We haven't done a ton of maintenance to it for years. I don't know exactly how long we've owned them.
And
But-
it's just a space. There's no other.
No,
It's just
yeah.
Ground to park a trailer.
It really is.
Is it needing vote for all the upkeep and debris and?
That's one of those, like, I'll have, I believe it is, but I'll have to really check closer to, right now we have three actual mobile homes that are parked there, right? Or four.
Yeah.
And then we've got the fifth wheel that's on the corner. And then, I want to say was there not a fourth mobile home there, Kyle, or no?
No, there's just
Just
three.
three. So I think.
Two that run along Bridge, one that's on Dale, and then the fifth was on the corner of Dale and Buckley.
Yeah, and then,
There's another spot.
there's another spot
It
that's
doesn't
baked,
have-
that's open.
Doesn't have something. I think the water screwed up or the power.
So in the RV spots, that's where we have all of our issues of utilities. Because we've got one RV spot that only has water, one RV spot that has water and, so there's two that just have water, one that has sewer and then power.
No water.
Right, yeah, so the fifth wheel that's on there takes up 3 spaces because only one utility works in each section. So, and it's been like that for years. It's not
Right.
anybody likes getting a free ride or anything. It just happens to be nothing works except for one component on each lot. So that's how we've dealt with it over the years. So, we're missing revenue there. We could have 2 extra lots there and then we have a vacant lot. So again, it's kind of, if we clean things up there a little bit, we can run it more efficiently. It's cash flowing it, between, the 3 residents and the fifth wheel, our net profit out there is 8,040 because we do free utilities, water, sewer, garbage, but the residents there do pay their own electricity, but we do provide the water, sewer, garbage for them, which again, doesn't make a ton of sense because they pay $300.
They're paying $100 less than the RV park, but yet the RV park's not making.
Right. So yeah, it's,
So electricity seems to be.
yeah, electricity is a huge factor at the RV park. The fact that we don't subsidize the electricity helps us cash flow.
So if you got electricity in there, you could probably lower the rent and still make money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the fact that, we don't have a lot of capital expenditures, if anything, and, we haven't put a ton of labor into it.
Right.
So, it just sort of is. And the fact that we don't subsidize electricity is helpful. And, but the fact you know, when you think about if I'm paying $300 and what's our average utility bills, let's say $130, $140. So your rent's, you know, $150, pretty good deal. So, you know, that's another area, you know,
So
for
is
us.
is this something that the city wants to continue? This is a question for everybody, to continue to be in the business of?
That's another question. You know, I know Dave Slat had looked at perhaps selling the ground at the mobile home park. And I think the collective, it was maybe worth 30 grand.
Everything.
Yeah, you know, for all the land. I think it's about
I
what,
think it was 30 grand.
we got a buyer.
It was
Do a little
15,
auction?
15 to 30 per lot. And
Yeah,
there are two
per-
tax lots.
Oh, cool, it was per lot,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that seems really cheap. I'd buy it 30 for the whole thing.
Yeah, because I,
Especially with city services.
yeah, so I don't know how. Do you
I
know how
mean,
many,
it-
is it like a quarter of an acre or maybe more?
I think one was just shy. I think one's 0.2 acres, one's 0.24 acres is what I looked it up as.
Oh, so it's two tax lots, yeah, okay.
Cause just shy of half an acre.
So if it doesn't take a lot of administrative time and public works time, it's probably worth.
It's where I honestly, Mayor, think it's worth keeping if it. Yeah, no, I mean, it's, you know, it's an easy revenue source if we. If we got the utilities working there correctly, we had residents pay, which is kind of the expectation, no matter, you know, I mean, when you rent an apartment, hey, I gotta pay the utilities. So I don't think it's out of the question. So, I mean, I really think it could be, you know, a good cash flower for us and. Yeah, and it's affordable. I mean, the good thing, it's you know, it's affordable housing. You know, it helps folks out, you know, it's in a nice area. So I mean, it just needs to be spruced up a little bit and, you know, we just need to tighten up our regulations.
Could we figure out what it would take what kind of cost it would take to get those other two RV spots fixed?
Absolutely. And that was,
They fill up like that.
oh, absolutely. So that was going to be the next phase of what we're doing. But, you know, again, kind of putting this on council's radar
Sure.
with, because I was surprised by kind of how we're running, but, and again, I hate kind of being that guy, oh, how we're running it. Cause you know, it's been like that for years, you know, you know, we're all doing the best we can, but you know, if we can make it better, let's make it better. And if we can cash flow and, you know, put it into the general fund and, you know, maybe put it into parks rather than, you know, paying for somebody's electricity who's able to pay. And, you know, and if they're not able to pay, we're always really good about payment plans and things like that. So, you know, I know we have a really generous city here. So, you know, that part of it, I feel good about. It's affordable, you know, our rates are really good in our utilities and it makes sense. And it makes sense liability wise to run it correctly, you know,
So, together what it would take to fix the spots that we fixed, 6, 7, 8, I think it was.
yes,
Can you give us the ROI? How long, like?
Absolutely.
Yeah, take us to get our money back, because we do have tight margins in this
Yes.
city. So.
absolutely.
Funds, we gotta know, take us to recoup that.
Absolutely. I'll do sort of like an amortization schedule of what it would take so yeah, but again, you know, it was a little eye-opening to us and we were actually surprised how much we were making on the mobile homes, you know, because you know, it's not a ton of effort and you know, and really the only labor cost to us is if, you know, a line goes out and Public Works has to go out and fix it. You know, electrical box is going to be on PP&L, you know, so some of those things, it's not, you know, it's not huge maintenance costs and residents have to take care of their grass and
they sign leases?
so yeah, they do have leases. I know we've had a couple of really long-term residents there, haven't we? So, so again, those are on month to month as well, but you know, we have some good tenants in there, so it's not, you know, it's not like
They own the mobile.
they own the mobile homes, yeah,
They pick out their.
exactly. So,
They sell it.
or yeah.
Somebody.
And they're required for all the upkeep on the ground and everything around it.
Yeah, they're under the same code provisions as any other home. So, you know, if there's code enforcement issues, you know, they have to adhere to the same requirements. So,
Okay, cool.
Okay, yep,
Thanks.
thank you, council.
What, can I have one more?
Absolutely.
One question that, I didn't see in here, or one answer, I should say, can we sell the parks?
We can sell the mobile home park. It belongs to us and, you know, we'd probably have to surplus it. I've been involved in some of those in government, which is not, it's not that complicated. You know, you surplus it for whatever reason, the city doesn't want to maintain it anymore. And then typically what you'll do is you'll either list it with a real estate agent, or you can actually have an auction, or you can do a sealed bid. And you know, people can bid on it with a sealed bid. So, you know, it's a good way to put some money in the coffers if we absolutely don't want to be in that business anymore. So we can sell it.
It has been suggested several years ago to sell it and possibly have an apartment house built that whole area.
You know, I was looking at, I was thinking that same thing, Counselor. There seems to be enough ground to have like a smaller apartment complex there, you know, and that's something that's popping up all across the Northwest. There's some,
And that'd be up to the new.
yeah, and that would definitely be up to the owner. I mean, it is zoned residential, so you could do that. I mean, there's traffic impact issues that come with it, and you know, there's other things, but yeah, that's certainly, if someone came along, was an investor and wanted to do something like that, they certainly could if they bought the ground.
Maybe talk about maybe possibly like a, seeing that like a.
Or was just maybe senior housing or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, and,
There you go, Jeannie.
I
and
already own my own home, so
You already have senior housing.
it's too big for me now.
well, and that's something that you can do too. Like, since we own the ground, we could do sort of like a master plan where, and we could dictate to a developer like, hey, this is our vision on it. And, you know, it'd be sort of like a public-private partnership of, you know, this is the stipulations if you buy this property. So you could do a planned unit development like that if you wanted to. Right. So, but you'd have, you know, it's a process. You'd have to stick to it.
I don't know, I'd like to see. Selling it would be just a one-time shot.
Yeah, that's the problem.
You gotta, every month, some weekend. And if it's not taking up too much time and a huge burden on the city, then why? Why?
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, honestly, it could, you know, run well, and you say run well, there's not a ton of labor to it. It's just, you know, the thing that we're actually instituting now with Ameta is, you know, she's, you know, they typically just come in and pay, but we didn't really have a billing system. So now Ameta's instituting that, you know, to make sure that they get a bill, and, you know, we're making sure, hey, if they don't pay the bill, fortunately, they have paid their bill over the year, but you know, it's always nice to have a system, you know, in place. So yeah, it just makes it easy.
I really just like it, but.
No, well, none of us do.
Something that you.
For the you know, for the trackability standpoint of it, it makes it easy. Then we could see the cash flow and we know who's paid, who hasn't, you know, ultimately, but I honestly, I think we should keep it. You know. Yeah, absolutely. It's a, you know, it's good affordable housing and, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
It meets a need.
Yeah.
We need money.
Yeah.
It does, it meets our needs also, so,
Okay.
okay,
Very
thank you,
good.
council.
Okay, so next on the agenda is council discussion on 2020. Of course, yeah, go ahead.
Gina, could you mind stepping up to the mic, just so it's getting recorded, just the public, in case there people are watching? Sure.
Yeah.
And ours are low too, and we charge, I'm just up in the 500 now, but I'm up in them as people move out. I up in them, I'm up in them. So you can get them to market value when they move out, and then do this 9%, I think it is this year, that we can do 9.5%. But as people move out, it could be big, what I was thinking. And I really think meters on them is a very good idea, because if I own my mom's, I'd be meter. big difference.
Yeah.
And.
Would
last
you,
but not
would you lower the mic a little bit so that?
Okay, I believe meters are a very good idea. I would absolutely do that if I owned my mom's property, without a doubt, I'd need them. And last but not least, please hold on to the property. I think the city should hold on to whatever property they have. I thought,
Cool, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, that's why. I mean, this isn't official, but
Yeah,
that's my opinion is that.
It makes sense.
And Dave and I talked about that a couple of years ago too. He's like, man, this thing is this and you know, what do we do? And why get rid of it if it's not a
Right.
burden on you and it's making money? I mean, we can use that money for other things that the folks in town need.
But we need to get it in the black.
Well, that's what we're talking about the home park, but the RV park does, the RV park, yes, I agree, it's got to operate in the black, we can't be. I mean, we've got to run this is everybody in town's money, and if they're having to subsidize something, that is not fair to them.
Right.
And I totally 100% agree with that, and I would like to see the numbers on this. Metering, and I think that
Yeah,
the return on investment is gonna be probably pretty quick on that.
that's what I think too. I think so too.
Yeah.
Got it.
And if they choose to use gas, then maybe they'll use less electricity. And
Right,
that'll be
they pay
their,
less
that'll be their
electricity.
choice.
Yep. PPNL will bill them, yeah.
Yeah, they would get a bill from PPNL just like the rest of us do,
Right.
just like a house. The only thing they wouldn't get is water, sewer and garbage because. I mean, I guess you could do a sewer bill because you're not metering that, but water.
Right.
Will be metered, you wouldn't meter water, but if you're doing it for the mobile home park, I think if, once you. Looking at the preliminary numbers, once you meter the power,
Then
you
we'll-
could charge less in rent and still come out big.
Right.
That's like a
Yeah.
Decent profit.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah, the electricity's killing us at the RV park.
Yeah.
It's.
Well, sure, it's free.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I mean, I don't blame them. I would take advantage of it too. It's
When I was in college, I lived in an RV.
Yeah.
My first year, and the electricity was free. And my dad bought me a 40-gallon propane tank. It was still full when we were done because I used the
Yeah.
electricity for everything.
Absolutely.
So I know how that goes. So, okay, well, moving on. Goals and what's SWOT?
So that's a SWOT analysis. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. Oh gosh, what's the T? Yes, threats. And you know, the SWOT was really Counselor Sonnenberg's idea to incorporate the SWOT analysis, which is typical in business. You know, looking at, you know, your strengths, your weaknesses, what opportunities and threats lie out there. In addition, to what the goals are for, you know, the rest of this year heading into next year. And, you know, this item I brought really designed for myself to, you know, see what obviously I know what my expectations are essentially, but you know, what is the goals for this council? You know, this is your opportunity council. You know, where are our strengths? Where are our weaknesses? You know, what are the opportunities? What are the threats? So as I talked to Counselor Sonnenberg, I thought, and we thought, you know, this would be a good opportunity to start first with, you know, what are we doing well? What are we doing where we can improve, and what's the opportunities, and then kind of delve into, you know, I think that'll give us a baseline for what can we accomplish. I mean, we all have great goals. Let's make 10,000 houses and, you know, put them in and make sure it's, you know, smart growth and we have great tech, but you know, the reality is it's going to take 3 years to get Hatley's project going, and there's issues with ODOT, you know, so it's never as quick as you think it's going to be. And even with the Madison's project, you know, we're talking with ODOT. They want him to fix the entire overpass. That's millions upon millions of dollars. And, you know, ODOT is saying they have no money. So, you know, even though I know there's a lot of trepidation about growth in the community, you know, that's still a long ways away. You know, it's because of the bureaucracy and some of those roadblocks that ODOT is, you know, already putting up. So, but you know, there's short-term things that we can accomplish. So, you know, I'll really you know, this is really your analysis to lead, Mayor, you know, and have council chime in and, you know, I'll definitely chime in where I feel necessary.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's pretty open-ended discussion. I mean, I don't know really how to start, I guess. I mean, we have a lot of strengths, this town does. I mean, it's a wonderful little town. We have great people in this town. We have a great, I think this council and people that have been on this council before us have done a really good job of building the foundation for the city. We have great employees. We have, which add to that foundation, we have a good water system that is almost done and getting updated, you know, with the new meters and the water tower and having redundancy in the system and fire flow, you know, just all that stuff that we've done, getting new valves and things that we haven't had before and replacing those. And so when you look at our infrastructure, I think we're doing quite well there. Sewer is better than it's been in a long time, because it still needs some attention, of course. You know, you've got to have a long-term outlook on these things. And financially, I think, you know, foundation there is looking it. Yes, we run on a very tight budget, but I think it's a little less tight than it has been before. With our, especially with the sewer and water reserves, the golf course fund, the golf course is doing much better. So we're seeing the ability to put money in those reserves where we haven't in the past. And we were able to do that by even lowering the sewer rate. But the costs keep going up. So as far as the weakness goes, I think we're a little behind on our public safety fee, because 911 continues to grow at it, outpacing inflation. And our police contract goes up 4% every year, whether we like it or not. But yet the money coming in to pay those off doesn't go up. A little bit of growth would help offset that, but until that growth happens, it falls on the residents. Yeah. And so as they go up, those costs have to go up, and that's an unfortunate reality. So that'd be a kind of a weakness, I guess. We're in a spot. Mobile home park, you know, is a weakness right now because it's not home RV park, excuse me. It's not operating in the black. Our history is a huge strength that we can certainly that brings people to town. And I think part of our I have a little note here from earlier, part of our history that we have spent some time on and have a plan for, we just don't have the money, is Fort Henrietta, getting that back up. And I think we really need to be looking at some parks or some history grants or something to that effect to get that replaced.
So that would be an opportunity then? Yeah.
Yes, it would. Thank you. You're the SWAT expert, so keep me in line. Thank you. Yes, and that would be an opportunity. That wouldn't be a strength or a weakness, but yes, an opportunity to get that project finally put to rest. And how we do that? There's grants. We just have to find them. We do have a strength. We do have some growth, some potential growth coming. It's not fast, but that's okay. That's good. We don't need to be growing fast, but a little bit of growth will help us with finances and things like that. What's that? Our tax base, yes. Because it will continue to fall on the rest of us if we don't add some new folks.
So that's kind of a threat, right? So not being able to expend their tax base and all our taxes going up to support the infrastructure, support the city, that could be considered a threat because people are.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And another, I think you did a great job outlining our strengths. We have so many strengths here in this community. One of the things is the involvement of the community members. I think that is an excellent strength for you. weaknesses, and I know we're addressing them, is our economic development, like setting up monthly meetings now, and we are looking at what we do to develop Main Street. Right? Main Street's a weakness right now, but it's also an opportunity. So weakness is an opportunity, sometimes they go hand in hand. Threat wise, one of the things I'm seeing, and it's based on conversations with what's going on with ODOT. We have a lot of things we want to do, but we have to, one of the threat is one of the regulating factors is operating within the rules of the state of Oregon and regulations of the state of Oregon that could be holding us back from what we want to do to be able to provide for our community, right? And I also think with our amazing strengths, we also have the threat of coming together as a community on how we want to develop the community. That could be a threat, but it's also a grand opportunity to bring the community together, say, where do we want to see things be? How do we want our community to look in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road? But the threat is how we're going to pay for that, how we're going to support it. In our budgetary process with all of our costs going up. How long will it be before our city goes broke at the current rate of inflation? That's a threat.
Right, yeah. And another weakness, I guess, I really like to keep things positive.
I know.
But weaknesses can work into positive things. We have to put a
Yeah.
positive spin on those, right? And we have to identify those so we can have positive outcomes. I think another weakness we have is our code enforcement. We have zero code enforcement and have had zero code enforcement for many, many years. And one of the things I don't like about our current code, how we deal with code enforcement, is it's neighbor driven. So it takes a complaint from a neighbor.
I don't like that at all.
And really, that doesn't help a community grow or get along with each other. And
No.
I know times have changed and we don't talk over the fence as much as we used to with our neighbors, or have them over for dinner or a barbecue or whatever. And I'm not saying that's what we need to do, but if somebody's got a rooster crowing at all hours of the day, we know we have a code against that, right? And nobody's going to do anything about it until the neighbor complains. And so they're going to know that the neighbor complains. So now you're pissed off at your neighbor because he's complaining about your rooster, who you think is not causing any issues at all, because he's your rooster. He's your, confidant, whatever, emotional support chicken, whatever it may be, right? And how dare you attack me because I have that? And that's how sometimes people see these things.
Yeah.
And so, what's that?
That's okay. They don't make a lot of noise.
That's
They make a little bit of noise, but not a lot. But anyway, my point is that's really not a good way to enforce code. Or having a meta, the city clerk, sending out letters to people we know have weeds that are obnoxious and aren't taking care of them. Well, now here's a meta trying to do the clerk job, and now she's the code enforcement officer, and then people are pissed off, come in all pissed off at a meta because how dare you send a letter? My weeds are just fine, and who are you to say my weeds? And I can see this happening.
Or they
It
could
does.
look at
So-
our city property and say, your weeds are worse than mine.
Right, right.
So what you're saying, there's no good solution for this problem?
No, there is a good solution, I
Oh.
think. And I think instead of having neighbors turn in neighbors, or city employees turn in neighbors, that we ought to have a code enforcement officer and add that to part of our police contract. Now, that takes money, but with a little bit of growth, it wouldn't take a lot of hours. But with a little bit of growth, we could have somebody come in 1 day a week or something and find these code violations and slowly fix that stuff up. And not that we have to go in there and throw everybody in jail tonight, but just say, hey,
Not
your
jail, it's doing
weeds,
no.
right, but it's different when it comes from somebody wearing a uniform that is paid to do that job.
Correct.
And, I may be just mad because at you because I don't like it. but a police officer is supposed to be non-biased. Yes, Jeannie?
I have a comment about that.
Yeah,
In fact, I have two comments. Number one of the problems we've had is communication with the public. You have great ideas, but we never hear about them until we don't agree. Or we hear about it and then we disagree. And we have a police officer that used to come around a lot. And if there was something, they would tag it. What happened is that even though they tagged it, it was still there for 6 years. I know that personally. But as a neighbor, I don't want you going around having my neighbor complaining, and I don't want every week somebody coming around saying, oh, you forgot to mow your grass. I think
Right.
whatever, once a month or whatever would be fine. The other thing I'm missing.
yeah, I just throw that out as an idea. I mean,
Understand, that's
yeah.
too much, you're gonna get harassed for that. The other thing is, we used to know what we got a little thing called a newsletter, which adds to your life, I'm sure. But if you said, well, you need to do this, we're gonna do that, we know better, instead of coming to a meeting is long. And it's long, and we don't hear everything you're saying, and we have no say until now. We're trying to say, we want to hear what you're doing, we want to, I'm a visual person, not an auditory person, I want to see it, what you're doing, and I love your ideas, I'm not complaining, we gotta grow. I agree with don't sell the trailer court, because that's like getting rid of your best doll, then you have nobody to love, anyway. Be careful when you start throwing out things that people won't know about until, oh, yep, that's what we decided. Get some input. Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I really think that we need to do a better job of communicating with the public. Like, what are the codes? What are
Yeah.
the expectations, right? What
No,
do we expect of you? And this is what,
person,
yeah,
it was nice if you would say, oh, I saw you in the store and this is what we're doing.
right.
It's hard to wait to read it I'm not gonna read it online, I admit, I wait till it's posted in physical. Yeah, you gotta get old and grouchy, I don't know, talk to us,
Yeah.
talk to us.
Well, and I think you're right, Jeannie. I had asked Dave a while back when they got rid of the newsletter. You know, what's her name did it for a little bit. She volunteered. Yeah, Pam Reese was doing it for a little while. And then it went away and the council was like, we got to bring something back. So then we started adding things on the back of the community calendar on the back of the bill. A lot of people don't even look at their bill. So it's the never ending problem, right? But I had asked Dave, and it happened a couple of times and it's gone away, was to add a code on the back. Like, hey, did you guys know that it's illegal, that it's against city code to park, to have weeds that are obnoxious, or to have roosters, or to have whatever the code may be, to drive golf carts down the Thiel Center. Who knows what it may be, but because most people don't look at the codes until
Yeah.
it affects them, really. I mean, who has time to read all of those things? Like a peddler's permit and all these other things that we have. Nobody knows that.
Same with the project, for Henrietta, I agree, we don't have the money now. But if you let people know, yes, we're gonna do this, you could get donations. I know it won't be enough to build it all at once, but people would be interested. They'd start writing their relatives, oh, they're gonna put Fort Henrietta up again, and they would get money. I mean, that's what we do for the museum, send out begging letters. But you don't have to beg, you just let them know what you're doing and they want to come.
Well,
The
and we-
library needs some new books, you say, well, we're missing this book, be careful, you'll get 10 of them. I mean,
yeah, we do try to.
kind of left out, just FYI.
Yeah, and I get that, but on this other side, we did have several meetings for we talked about Fort Henrietta for over a year. And we had presentations from that Fort Henrietta committee every month on where they were and where they were going, and we had handouts. So, I mean, we do try, besides going door to door, it is difficult, but if somebody wants to volunteer to do the newsletter or to get all that information out, man, I would never turn them away. I wouldn't even care if they misspelled a few words. I mean, really, just have at it.
And Jamie would.
Yeah, Jamie will proofread.
Yeah, we have. And I mean, I'll say as a former journalist, it's no problem for me to put a newsletter together. I would like to know the expectations, because I used to go out in physical form, right?
Yeah.
And do we know what did it go out to every household?
It would go out with every bill.
Oh, okay.
It was.
Oh, gotcha,
it was a
okay.
Separate sheet, usually front.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Same method,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what I would be interested in is maybe forming a committee that wants to restart the newsletter, and get some help, because obviously the community is the eyes and ears. So you could tell us what's going on, and it's nothing for me to write something. So I don't even mind writing it. Just, if we could, I guess maybe an editorial committee is what we could call it.
Yeah,
And
we can talk about that.
You
I
know,
mean,
that's-
it is something that was nice to have. And it was sad to see it go, but I
Right.
totally, it just was one of those things. I mean, Diane was down here way more hours than 40 a week. I mean, she basically lived here and then she went home and lived there and then came back here. And it showed. I mean, she did the newsletter every month. Yeah, she did a lot. And so to bring that back, I think would be a very good thing. I think that a lot of people would like that. We've heard that before. We just need to find somebody with
Yes.
the time. Here we're talking about getting rid of 7 hours worth of payroll.
Right.
We don't want to add 7 hours more. of
No,
doing
and that's the
newsletter.
thing. I actually talked to Diane for the first time on the phone, a couple times actually. And she talked about the newsletter a little bit. So, and she too said you guys need to restart that. So,
It'd
and
be a
I,
good way to get just a little
Yeah.
more about, like you say, Fort Henrietta, about the cleanup day, whatever it is. And Facebook is a good thing too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, and even if we decide, okay, we're gonna start a new enforcement of our codes, and this is how we're going to do it. And give people advance warning, like, the council's talking about doing this. They're gonna have a meeting on it, but this is what we're talking about, so people can come to the day of the meeting to discuss it. We got the newsletter the month before.
And if we're gonna enforce
Something
code,
like that.
enforce one code and just put that out there. Hey, this is gonna be what we're gonna be looking for this.
Focus
or
of
whatever.
this month.
Yeah.
Right.
Or whatever. And if you have any questions, call. Yes, Gina. We should have a mic.
yeah, we do need a wireless.
I was just gonna say, in the past, Diane would go around and she'd see anywhere that was obnoxious, and then they'd write letters to the people, and sometimes it took 1 or 2 letters before they'd actually do it. I wouldn't come in too strong, because you get the community upset, but if you started out slow and just started doing letters, they might pick it up on their own. The other thing is, I think Diane went over and beyond on the city doing things, like alongside the roads and stuff. And I think it made the city look a lot better. She'd expect a little bit more by, I'm just gonna say, like down along those apartments, when you're going to the school and stuff, I think the city used to take care of that, where when it's not being taken care of by the city, just not that.
You mean the duplexes, those little
Yeah.
duplexes, you've got all the crap in the middle where the trees are.
Yeah, and just different places I've noticed isn't being taken care of like it used to be, because it isn't really the city's job. But the city used to go a little further than it had to go, and it might be a good idea just, that's all.
Yeah, and I think
Go ahead.
I think you're right, Gina. I talked to Meta, and Meta, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but because I asked her about this process, because what do we really do out there? And usually a letter from the cities, Meta still sends them. Most of the time takes care of the issue. You don't have to threaten anybody or have the lawyer call them or the state police or any of that. It's just a letter saying, hey, we've noticed this. Can you fix it up? And then the rest of them, it may take 2 or 3 letters, and then you'll have 1 or 2 people that just ignore you completely, and that's just anything in life, but we do still do that. And one of the things to that, like those duplexes, that landowner could get a letter and say, hey, this is not meeting our code. You need to fix it. And maybe Public Works did do a lot of work for them in the past. Nowadays, it's really hard to do. And so, yeah, we know maybe we did do that before, but now we can't do it. So, the responsibility falls on you. So you could please work on that, then.
Another example is.
We could.
A lot of complaints I've heard about that, and then I talked to Scott about.
Leaves in town in the street.
Like, next to
or-
the post office, stuff like that. And I actually went and said, hey, Scott, because I know Scott, and he said, well, that's not the city's job. And it may not be, but it's always been, and it does take,
Are you talking in the parking lot or on the sidewalk?
like the post office.
The door.
Right by the door? Well, that's your postmaster. She should be doing, it take her 5 minutes to
And
sweep
the
that.
city- yeah, so, they kept it, yeah,
They used to go clean up everybody's front door along Main Street.
those streets
throughout town.
Yeah, clean the streets. I'm not talking by the front door where the doormat is.
Sidewalks and this around the city hall, the museum, and all around downtown Echo, they took care of all the leaves on the streets and the
And on the side.
sidewalks.
Okay.
Yes.
And to have to go just a little extra than they actually have to, made all the difference. I mean, it did make us shine over and over and.
Well, at some point I think they probably.
Yeah. But we're talking me, yeah, and the side, even the side roads, I love that, and it didn't take that long.
No, I agree. That's,
They did renew.
yeah, before the Red to Red, they brought the street sweeper in and did, yeah, they can't get up on the sidewalk though with that, so.
I know.
I have a couple of comments if I could.
Yeah, Richard, go ahead.
One is that, speaking about communication, and, we have to realize that there is no good way to do it. That every one of us has a different, method of receiving information, and I think the newsletter is a great idea. I always enjoyed that, and I think it gets to a lot of people. But some people don't read it, no matter what it is. Maybe they can't read, I don't know. But nobody stops downtown and reads the electronic sign. It's hard to read when you drive by it, so a lot of people miss that. So, what I'm saying is that if you're going to communicate, you got to do it in 100 different ways, because there's 100 different ways that people listen and hear. Other thought that I had was that in terms of living together, I guess you would call it. It's what we're doing, and we have stray cats at our house all the time, but we don't care. I mean, we live with that. They have collars on. They could have a leash on them. You ever seen a cat with a leash? No, it doesn't happen very often. And but and I'm not complaining about that. What I'm saying is that one extreme is living with it. If somebody's really got a messy yard and a lot of trash laying around, it's not only unpleasant for others, but it's also possibly a disease causing area. So, there's a little bit of that to look at. And but if it's a rooster crowing, maybe the letter from the city would take care of that. Or there's a lot of different things. One of the things that I thought of is that, and I've seen it operate in other places that I've been, is that city has an organization that meets regularly, a community organization that can provide a cleanup crew if you want your place cleaned up. There are people who physically have trouble cleaning up, and they might like that. Other people would say, "Why am anybody else in my yard?" Well, you can't satisfy everybody, but to have on our cleanup day, have people who volunteer to come around and clean up areas that have been noted might be a good way to accomplish that without any hard feelings and making enemies of your neighbor. Might make them a friend. That's all I got to say.
So are you starting a committee or a
Sure.
group?
So, Mayor Chad, so given that we've done this discussion on, we know where our, you know, what the great things about our city, what's going great, we know some of our, because we have amazing opportunity to improve our communication in Fort Henrietta and some other things, and I love that you brought that up, because I think communication's huge. And we know that there's some threats out there with all the regulation, stuff coming down. Where do we go with setting goals for 2026? 2027?
Well, the council has set goals. We set goals 4 years ago, something like that.
21.
We did kind of a mission statement and a vision and those kind of things, and then we put some broad reaching goals. What is important for our city? You know, safety, health, community involvement, even involving folks that don't necessarily live in the city, but live around the city or have something that they can offer to the city from outside. We changed for example, we changed our council rules to allow folks from outside the city on committees, things like that.
Yeah.
They don't have to be a resident. Kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with that, but
Setting a
so we have, so we should do, I think, as a council, and it's kind of that time, and I was talking to Mike about this, you know, with the changeover in city manager, administrator, recorder, do all guy, gopher. You know, he's got it, kind of had a chance now to see a little bit of stuff. And he's asking us, where do we want to go? And to revisit those, which we have done annually, it's not always January, but you know, it's kind of the beginning of the year. It'd be a good time to have a work session where we take a look at those again and say, are these still up to snuff with where we're at and what we're doing, what the community wants? And then, and not get into the specifics, but we could get into maybe a short-term goals and long-term goals based on those goals. And then that would hopefully give Mike some direction on what he should be focused on and maybe what could wait till another day. And
year to year.
we've kind of done that year to year.
Gone over what our goals were, we've adjusted wording, some of the goals we've changed. And then we have done kind of more like, this is what we can accomplish. Basically what he just said, but like the goals we kind of have the same. We have like, what do we have, like the mission statement, vision statement, we normally kind of tweak or at least look at and decide if we want to keep it or not, or change something in it. So that we've done that all at the same work session where we do that and then we go over our goals and changing, keeping priority. And I think that's a great idea. And so where I'm headed with this is, because that was a leading question, sorry, Chad.
Oh, thanks for baiting me. It's all right. I don't mind at all.
So where I was thinking about was, so if we're gonna do a work session, we talked about the goals and priorities of the city. It would be great in following up on Jeannie's comment about communication is, let's put our current mission statement, vision statement, and goals in our first newsletter. Our first thing we hand out with the next bill, and then say, we're gonna have a work session at the city. If you wanna come be involved in setting our priorities for the next few years, or what we need to work on first, come and be a part. Come and speak up, or send in your ideas to the city administrator, and we'll look at them and discuss them as we set these goals. But that's where I was going with that, because I know Mike has talked to all of us about having a work session to look at our goals. But in order to try to get more community input on what's important for them, let's tell them what our goals are now, just remind them.
Yeah, remind them, yeah.
Remind, they probably, a lot of them probably already know. And then say, what's important to you for the city to work on as a community member, and make that maybe one of our first newsletters. Not just, we're gonna beat you up because you have noxious weeds and trash in your yard.
Right.
But maybe step more with what's important. And maybe they're gonna say, making Berlin's rooster not crow all night. I don't know.
She didn't have a rooster. I just use that. My
I don't
daughter
care.
lives next to somebody who has a rooster, so it's. But yeah, I mean, and that's a great point. And we've had people come to our work sessions in the past and have had ideas that have helped to guide us. It hasn't been a lot of people, which is fine. I mean, not everybody can make these things, and I've just had people come up to me on the street or at the grocery store, I mean, and say, hey, what's going on with this or what's going on with that?
Yeah.
And why aren't we doing this or that? And
Being,
so,
making them aware of what we're gonna talk about early on, like tell them now, so in the next one, they can write in or email or whatever if they can't make. it.
Right.
And use Facebook. I mean, a lot of people use Facebook.
A lot of people don't here. There's a lot of elderly people who don't even have smartphones or computers. That has been a problem.
well, and Facebook is a good way
It
to
is
notify
good.
folks.
Yeah.
And like our city page, that's what I see our city page as here's what's happening.
Yep.
And it's not a gripe or groan, page. That's
Or
what's happening at,
announcements.
this is just what's happening, end of story.
Mhm.
Or this is what happened, end of story. If you don't like it or you do like it, you go to what's happening, echo it, complain or whatever there. But, so it's an informational
Yeah, exactly.
page.
That's
But
what
then
I
the
think.
newsletter can be another
Same thing.
form of way to getting that out for the folks that don't have Facebook or. And there's a lot of younger people that don't have Facebook either.
Right, or
So-
posting it in the post office.
Yeah, maybe
Right,
we could
and
talk
putting
to
it in the post office, putting it here in City Hall, putting it on our.
We could talk with the businesses, like Asian restaurants and wineries, they could.
This would be
Have a flyer on their
way to
pages.
have when you meet with the businesses discussion.
Absolutely, and I agree with Counselor Thu. It's nothing's perfect. You got to have a multitude of streams, and that's one thing I'm instituting on March 31st, which I've invited every council person to it. But we got to be careful not to have a quorum. So we're going to meet with business owners March 31st up here, and as a monthly, business meeting, and just to shoot some ideas and see where we can help business owners in the community from our perspective, and with marketing, whatever that might be. So
There's a group that could go out and clean somebody's yard.
and a lot of discussions, and what I've found is these organic business groups, they spur other things. So I feel like looking at our strengths and having been here now a couple months, I mean, we just have this incredible history that we can leverage, the Oregon Trail, and just a town that looks like it was cut out of the 1800s. So I mean, it's like really incredible. I do think some of our weaknesses, as I'm just,
Hey, Mike, before you get that, can I get to Gina?
oh yeah, absolutely, go for it.
That's the thing. I really think so.
Yeah, I find that hard to believe, but anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, I really think surveys are important. People won't come to the meetings or the workshops, but they've got opinions and they're not, like me, I couldn't talk before. I'm just getting where I can get up here and talk. People don't like to talk in public. I really think your next step should on the newsletter do surveys. What do you expect? What do you want? All that, because the community, when I was going around, I got lots of opinions, and I think if you guys put a survey out, you might get a better feel of what the community wants.
I totally agree. Surveys are good.
Well, I think you're right too, but one thing I want to caution people about surveys, if they're not done right, they're worthless.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
this is true.
And I've seen so many surveys that I couldn't even understand the paragraph at the top. But people thought they knew what the issue was, so they signed it. And those are worthless. And so you gotta have somebody who knows what they're doing to do a survey.
So the city of Hermiston, we go to a monthly meeting with the mayors, as you know. City of Hermiston has done a couple of surveys and they have gotten mixed results with theirs. Some of the stuff they got was pretty wrong. wasn't well worded, the questions, so they got odd responses and things that didn't really fit what they were trying to look for. So having somebody that knows really how to put that together in a proper way that people can understand and be able to answer clearly is very important. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. So, and we could probably learn from those guys in Hermiston because they've done
Yeah.
a few of them.
I can put it on the newsletter too, so that everyone gets it. And we can announce it on Facebook. There
Right, but
will
if
be a
it's-
Survey, I know,
What Richard's saying.
yes,
Yeah.
no, we got to word
Word.
right. So you just write answers or.
Appropriate answers, that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so go ahead, Mike.
No,
Yes, that you see?
Yeah, no, those were all great points, and yeah, surveys can be double-edged swords, because I've seen surveys. At just Yakima, they did a survey a few months ago about floating, a new tax levy. The survey came out, everybody supported it, and then it just failed miserably when it actually went before voters. So they read the tea leaves way wrong. So I totally get what you're saying. So, but yeah, there are experts that actually can get, with the surveys, so they come out correctly. So I definitely am with you on that. I think, we need to do kind of like an economic analysis, or more like I've been involved in some economic development plans for communities. What are the opportunities here? And, it's also, you have to live within your means. We could have all these great goals, but I think, and this coming into this budget season, one of my goals is to really educate the community on, I look at from a city manager's perspective, you're always looking at threats, right? Rising healthcare costs, our health insurance is rising 14%. Public works is rising 4%, police 4%. Utility costs, we have to build this, 911's going up. So, the rubber is going to meet the road for us here. Maybe not next year, but, in 3 to 5 years, if we do nothing in Echo, we're gonna face some serious cuts to services. What does that look like? I don't know, but that's something we really need to start looking at, like a 3 to 5, 7, 10-year cost analysis of what it just costs to run the city. And, one thing I know, a huge threat, we don't have big reserves here, we just don't. And, if we have a major catastrophic, who knows what could happen? I've seen it at Sunnyside. We had $1 million, something happened to our wastewater treatment plant, $1 million. We were like, oh my gosh. So we had to run to a public works board, get a loan grant. Fortunately, we got it, but still it's a cost. So, those kind of things we can't afford. So, that's where we talk about growth and how does that happen, in a smart way where, we can have some of those property tax costs to offset some of just, the costs that we have to run the city. Because it's a little bit tricky in Oregon, you don't have sales tax, so you can't really economically develop that way. So it's like a paradigm shift. Everything's based on property tax, and how can you get a giant Amazon building, right? Umatilla been lucky because they're close to the river and they have those assets. We don't have that. So, that's why a project like Kent Madison's becomes very important, and I know there's been mixed emotions on that in town, but you look at the future of Echo. Financially, the rubber is going to meet the road, folks. In 5 years, if we do nothing, I'm not going to say we're in trouble, but we're definitely going to have to cut services for just the basics. It's why a Hatley project becomes important. But we also have to have the infrastructure in place. One thing I'm a believer in, you can't just throw houses up and not have sewer capacity and, the water to do it, what you start doing, like your home budget, you start cutting things, so that's what'll happen here. And I don't want that to happen. I want us to flourish. I want us Main Street to look great, and, but it's going to be a process. But I do think what we need to start doing in Echo is like some serious long-term planning. And I'll say kudos to Dave for like the grants that he got, man, just to get that much money. I'm still shocked, to get the water system and the way it's been. I mean,
Him and I spent a lot of time.
Yeah, it's just incredible, so we're really in a great spot to do some good things and sustain the community for many years to come. But we still, on the sewer side, we got to get better, although we're better, to get that capacity and, development has to pay for development. So, with all these things, so what I'm hearing, council, is code enforcement is always kind of at the top of the list, in any community. We definitely have to do that better. And we've got to get our systems in place for that. It sounds like communication is another thing, and that's something I've heard in the community, and that's been in every community I've worked in. It's always, oh man, you got to communicate better. That's no slam on anybody. We can definitely do that better. I should know how to communicate. I was in that business a long time, so I got no excuses. So we'll definitely communicate better. And, I think from my city manager hat is just really showing the community how those rising costs are going to affect us in the next year to 5, because that's the things that keep me up at night when you get the bill. Oh, it's up 14% for healthcare. Police is up 4%, so collectively we're already at,
Make sure you put some happy news in.
Yeah, I will. I will. Thanks. So I will, the glass is always half full for me, but from a nervous perspective, Meta already knows I'm nervous and, I ask a lot of questions, but I'm also confident, in our staff and the assets that we have here. We have this incredible small but mighty town in the middle of Oregon. It's just in the middle of the Oregon Trail. So all these things and 2 wineries and these great bistros and, this amazing Main Street. And so, we have things that people would only dream of, so the potential here is very great.
You have a real good foundation.
Oh, absolutely. The foundation here, it's here, and we have great people in the town that are engaged. Gina's already visited me often, so I say that in a good way. Exactly. She's got her eye on me, so.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody knows where I'm at.
Okay, so that sound like a good plan?
Yeah, no, I think that
Kinda
gives me a
get
good
the-
baseline and
And we don't have to necessarily make a whole newsletter to get out the fact that are gonna revisit our goals. I think we can just put that on the back of the bill.
Yeah.
Maybe, or just an extra sheet that says, hey, we're gonna have a work session. We'll schedule it whenever, maybe next month, if
Yeah.
that works out, we'll figure that out. And just say, hey, here's our goals and our statements, and if you've got an opinion, let us know.
And we can provide an email address, directly to the city manager, and I can filter those. We have our info email address that, gets forwarded to my inbox. Yeah, old school. Yeah, absolutely. We can go multi
They
faceted.
me at the grocery store, they can drive to the pharmacy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, again, the more avenues that we get, old school, new school, the better.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Everybody good?
Good.
Any last things? All right, well, then. meeting
Yeah, great
adjourned.
discussion. Thank you, council.
Thank you, everyone. Very good.
You did it. So the first week, yeah, so the first week.